Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello my friends, welcome back to another recommendations video. Today is a bit of a lazy day and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to film a video for tomorrow. I'm super busy with Etsy stuff this week and getting books annotated for my sale that I had last week, so it kind of slipped my mind. But I do have a list of video topics that were suggested in a community post that I put up this last weekend, as well as in my book rec form, or I always say that, my video rec form. I have a full list, so there was one that I already had ready to go. I just had to grab the books. So as you can tell by the title, today we're doing doctor romances with doctors where either one of the characters is a doctor. Sometimes the books focus more around the doctoring, sometimes it just happens to be an occupation. It just depends. But I have 10 recommendations for you, even though a couple of these books are actually a part of series where there's multiple doctor books. So we'll talk about that. I even have one that is a different kind of doctor, and we'll get to that when we do. So first off, we have one that I actually just recently reread. I annotated it for a patron and I had so much fun revisiting it. And that was Hello Stranger by Lisa Kleypas. So this is book 4 in the Ravenels. It is suggested you read this series in order, and why wouldn't you want to? This series is lovely. But if you really didn't want to and you just wanted to read a romance about a female doctor, you could read this one. So this female doctor is actually based on a real woman, which you will find out in the author's notes at the end. But in regards to how it fits into the Ravenels, our doctor here, Garrett Gibson, actually has been training to be a doctor. She studied under a very famous physician, and she has been hired in a couple books previous. This is why I said it's good to start earlier. She actually gets hired by Mr. Winterbourne to be one of his on-staff physicians. He owns many businesses, many endeavors, and one of the things that he has done is to provide, healthcare in the best way that he could in a historical sense, which is to have doctors that he provides. He says it keeps my workers healthy, it keeps them happy, and it's just a good thing to have. And though many people find, of course, Garrett Gibson to be a bit unconventional, he doesn't care for that. He just cares about a good doctor. And there are a lot of new techniques that she has been diving into that make her an asset to him. And he's a smart businessman, so he's like, why wouldn't I hire this woman? So her fellow colleague is very hesitant to this in the beginning. It's tough I don't straight up call people misogynists who had issues with that back then. They haven't seen women in their profession, and they might not realize that yet, that they can do everything women can do. And what I love about this physician is that he's very hesitant to have her work with him, not only because she's a woman, because she's very young, and he's like, how much knowledge could she really have? And he very quickly changes his tune, and we see in this book that she's a trusted colleague to him. And I really like when there can be space for people's minds to be changed. That is something that I really love seeing in books, and not just being like, oh, that guy's a misogynist pig and we're just leaving him like that over there. People change and evolve, and they learn new things, and then they see things different going forward. That is not me trying to be a shaky finger, but it's just something I like to point out with historical novels when we can get frustrated with stuff like that. It's all relative is basically the point. You know what I mean? So, in this one though, we have Garrett, who she is, friends kind of with the Ravenels at this point, particularly with Lady Helen. And she also has a bit of an eye on a man named Ethan Ransom, who happens to be doing some spy work and some very dangerous deeds. And so they become very attracted to each other, but he very much is like, I gotta stay away from you because I could be a danger to you. And she's like, I don't care, I want you. So that's the kind of drama that we're dealing with that. So absolutely love this one, highly recommend. Now, to take a much more taboo track, we have The Doctor by Nikki Sloan. So this is actually book 1 in her Nashville Neighborhood series, the series that has the pool boy and the good girl and the architect. All of those books are in this series. And this one, being the start of it, is actually about Dr. Lowe, and the heroine, Cassidy is her name. She actually dated his son, and in the beginning of this book, she discovers that he had cheated on her, and she finds out when the dad is actually there. And so the dad is very disappointed in his son, and he actually has, he has thought that Cassidy has really blossomed into a lovely woman, but of course he would never think anything more for her. And then when there's a moment of him comforting her, things kind of escalate from there. There's a little bit of her wanting revenge and a little bit of her thinking that he's sophisticated and attractive, and this becomes a taboo, forbidden relationship for these two. Something that I also love about this is that this asshole son, who is a cheater in the beginning, he's actually a hero in a later book in the series, and I like the bit of comeuppance that he has to get later on is great. But this is a spicy, fun, little forbidden romance, and it's one of my faves by Nikki Sloan. I really enjoy it. Okay, next up we have Hot Shot Doc by R.S. Gray. This is actually one of the first books that I read by R.S. Gray way back when. She definitely writes a lot of stories that are very like tropey, but they're also really fun. And so this one definitely will give you Grey's Anatomy vibes in this one. It is between a doctor and I don't think that she's a nurse. I'm actually have this pulled up because but I think Bailey ends up getting assigned to work with him, and he's working on some very like difficult projects, and so she gets paired with him. And the reason why she ends up having to work with him is that the doctor that she had been mentoring under, he's retired. So there's actually nobody else that she can be put under except for him. So definitely this one is kind of like an enemies to lovers, forbidden romance, but it is two doctors. And yeah, it's been a while since I read this one, but gotta put it out there. I also feel like it's a classic when we talk about doctor romances at the same time. All right, then there is Dr. Stanton by T.L. Swan. So this is crazy too, because this is like one of the earlier T.L. Swans that I read many years ago. And I remember gobbling up the Stanton books. I did start with Stanton Adore and like those books, but then I started the Dr. Stanton, and this one just was like, I don't know if I would love it now because it is very like angsty, but at the time I just gobbled that up. And this one is actually about a one night stand in Vegas that leads to a secret pregnancy, and they like fake dating each other for a little while when they're in Vegas to like get him away from a creepy man. And then they end up having this super sexy time together, but then she isn't able to like find him once she is pregnant, I believe. Again, this one has been a while. And then quite a ways later, she actually ends up, I think, I can't remember how they run into each other again. I actually am like looking this up because it's been such a long time. I think they just run into each other at like a club that she's working now, and you know, she hadn't been able to get in contact with him before, but once she meets him, she also is like very afraid to tell him then about the son. So you guys know like secret babies are like not my thing. And the way that he reacts to this child is very kind of like more aggressive with wanting time with the child than I was totally comfortable with. But also, again, this was just super angsty, soap opera-y, and I mean, I gobbled it all up at the time. So what can you say about that, you know? Then there is One Moment Please by Amy Dawes. Now, I remember this one quite well. I really enjoyed this one at the time. This one is another like accidental pregnancy, but it's one that like the hero finds out like right away, so it's not as tough. These two have a one night stand, and then she ends up going into the doctor for some other reason. And then like he ends up being the ER doctor that's there, and for her to, I think, get treated, they have to do a pregnancy test, and she's pregnant. So he literally finds out that she's pregnant the same time as her, which I just thought was kind of a brilliant thing, because it's like yes, it's super awkward to find that out from this guy, but it's also like there was no chance for there to be secrets or lies because it's literally taken out of her hands that he finds out right there. So I just kind of like that. And then I believe he ends up asking her to like move in with him while she's pregnant so that he can watch out for her and, you know, be there and everything. And it leads to a lot of heartwarming and beautiful moments. So I really enjoyed this one. It's actually one I like kind of want to revisit it. All right, then of course there is The Doctor Is In series by Max Monroe. This is an author duet. They write these fun, steamy, romantic comedies that I just love. And there's this trilogy called The Doctor Is In, and it is basically about like this one. The first one anyway is about this one hospital that is going to be a part of a TV show. And so it's going to be called, it's going to be at St. Luke's Hospital, and he's supposed to have them like following him around. And I mean, his name is, like he gets, anyway, he's just a very attractive doctor. And so of course they want to make a big deal about him. And this is a relationship between him and one of his nurses. And he's Dr. OB, so he's an OBGYN, and people just make a big deal about this super hot doctor being an OBGYN, and it makes for some super awkward situations and everything, but it also is just like a lot of fun to read. So there's Dr. OB, which is of course about the OBGYN, and then there's Dr. ER, and there's Dr. Neuro. So there's three different ones, three different kinds of doctors, all at this hotel, or all at this hospital, and it was just a really fun series, and I binged it so quick. Like I read this series so quick. Highly recommend it for sure. Then we have one other historical to share, and this is one that it's been quite a little while since I read this one. This is by Julia Quinn, and this one is called First Comes Scandal. And this was the last book in the Rokesby series, which is a prequel series to the Bridgerton series. You could read each one of these as a standalone if you want to, but I really liked this one. So this one is Georgiana Bridgerton, who would be an aunt to the Bridgertons, okay? And she ends up being ruined, okay? And so she's given two options. She can either be a spinster, or she can get married to the man who ruined her, or she can marry the fourth son of the Earl, Nicholas Rokesby, who is prepared to, he's going to become a doctor. And, you know, they were friends growing up, and she, you know, they don't really know if they want to do this, but this is the girl next door, someone that he cared about when they were young, and so he agrees that they can do this. It'll be a marriage of convenience, and like he's going to school to be the doctor, so this will be fine, right? Something I really liked about this is actually a double virgin story. He just didn't have time to be tapping ladies while he was going to medical school and really focusing on his career. So there's just something kind of nice about that with him that makes him a little bit different from some of the norm. And I just remember him being super charming. Like this one is like, they were a marriage of convenience, and they plan to just kind of be like friends. You know, they're just going to be in this, they're going to be companions to each other. But of course, there ends up being much more heat between them than either of them expect, and they end up moving towards a very beautiful relationship together. So I really liked this one. This is one that I'm not a huge fan of this cover. I feel like this cover was like Julia Quinn being put on the cover of her own book, and I remember at the time a lot of us feeling it was super awkward. But you know what? That's life. Life is weird like that sometimes. So good for her for being on the cover of one of her books. That's what I would say anyway. Okay, a couple more left. So we have Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. This one is book 3 in her series, and this one is a best friend's brother. And definitely this one is a hate to love. This is between Josh Chen, who is going to medical school, and Jules Ambrose, who is going to be an attorney. And the way that these two, you know, they've been around each other for many years. Josh doesn't think Jules is a great example for his sister, blah, blah, blah. Like, we give a shit about his reasons for that. But he has been really on Jules' case for a long time. Like, he's a total jackass. But there is a lot of chemistry between the two of them, for sure. For sure there is. And so when they really get thrown together is that Jules ends up doing, like, some, I don't know what the right word is to say. It's not like interning, but she's taking a turn being like the hospital attorney at the place where Josh works. So like he's in residency and she's kind of doing this like stint at being the attorney for this hospital or whatever. So that's how they get pushed together even more. And then there's even more examples of them going on like a friend's holiday and having to like share a room together because everybody else is all paired up. And there's just all these events where their friends and family keep like pushing them together. But Jules does actually have a bit of a darker, not like a dark past, but people in her life that cause a lot of problems for her, and Josh is really unapproving of that. Now, this I've said is one of my like least favorite Anna Huangs because there's a certain thing that Josh does that really pisses me off. Like it pisses me off so bad, like so bad. But a lot of people, this is their favorite one, and they are super hot. This is like the sexiest book, of one of her sexiest books. So I just want to be honest, it's not my most favorite, but I understand why everyone loves it, and it's still Anna Huang, and she writes a good damn story, okay? She sure does. She sure does. And then we have another one that I absolutely love. And this is The Front Runner by Elsie Silver. So this is the one where I said it was a different kind of doctor. So in this one, we have our heroine who is a veterinary doctor. And she actually ends up helping Stephan DeLuca with one of his horses. And so Stephan is kind of seen as like an enemy of Gold Rush Ranch. Like he's seen as a competitor and an enemy. But when a horse that these two ranches are dealing with has a problem, our heroine, who I totally forgot her name, just went out of my head, Stephan and Mira, she agrees to kind of be going there daily to check in on this horse and needs to get closer. So he's not necessarily a forbidden romance, it's just she would maybe feel like a bit of a traitor if she got with him when most of her friends are with Gold Rush Ranch. But I really love this. Stephan is so hot. He is just like so spicy. I had such a good time with these two. And I mean, they're taking care of sick animals. I just love it so much. So I remember what happened with the animals. So Gold Rush Ranch, I think, loses a mare when a foal is born. And I think he loses a foal when the mare is born. I believe that's what's happened. So like the baby comes to stay with him. That's what it is. Because he's like, yes, my horse will nurse your foal, but the foal has to come stay at my place. I'm not sending my horse over there. That's what it is. And then Mira continues to check in. It just had to refresh my memory. It's been a little bit. And then the last one I want to recommend, we have a female doctor again, and this is Rafe by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is also known as the buff male nanny. So this one is actually the first one in the series called Loose Ends. So this one we have Rafe, and then there is Zenny, and then there's Megan, which is the one that just came out. So in this one, Rafe is a buff male nanny, and our heroine, she has twin daughters. She recently has gotten divorced from her shitty husband, and she needs a nanny, and Rafe gets recommended to her, and she is a little like intrigued by a male nanny, but he has impeccable references. He's great with her kids, and he's also a live-in nanny. And so sometimes after the girls get to bed, they find themselves drawn together and they just can't help themselves. So there's that. I really like this one. It's one that I look back on with fondness quite often. So there you go. Those are 10 doctor romances recommendations. I have links for all of these books down below if you'd like to purchase. It does help the channel out if you use my links. But otherwise, a lot of these are on Kindle Unlimited. You can hop right over and find them there. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.